People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you never get that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees, they don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Welcome once again to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, find us at zinniawealth.com. We usually sit here and talk through all of the issues about retirement, and we will do that kind of today. We have an interesting show for you. We're going to talk first about one of the political issues that you'll see on the ballot, and that's the 1% tax increase, the half-penny tax increase, and all the issues that go around that. Charisse is going to talk here in just a moment to Michelle Stone, the chairperson of the Marion County Commission. We're also going to talk today about some of the issues that are on the ballot when it comes to the presidential candidates, as far as Social Security, taxes, national debt, Medicare, all the things that we talk about here and how it affects retirement planning. All of that is coming up. Right now, let's get to Charisse and Michelle.
Well, today we have a special guest. She plays a major role in Marion County and help moving it forward. We have Michelle Stone here, and she has been a commissioner since 2016, and you presently serve as the chair of Marion County Board of County Commissioners, right?
That is correct.
Right now, very cool. And you have a lot of expertise in banking and the financial industry, and you really have used that expertise in our county to really improve governance and business practices. And everybody's very thankful for you. They love you to death. Everything I've ever heard about you, and I've met her personally on a fun trip we went on earlier this year, that they trust you, they believe you, you're such an amazing leader. And she is here to help us understand this 1% half-penny sales tax during this election that we're about to embark in. And thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Charisse, for inviting me to sit in with you this morning and talk to the citizens about the 1 cent sales tax.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people don't understand it. And you probably already know our mayor, Ben Marciano, was here talking about it. And so was Kevin Sheely. He's the CEO of CEP. And they give us their perspective. And so what I would love is your female perspective and what you've done so far, and a little breakdown about this 1% sales tax.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to share some facts about the 1% penny surtax, which is a 1 penny tax. First off, it is not an increase to what citizens are paying today. It is simply a continuation of what the citizens have already approved. It was approved in 2016, approved again in 2020, and now we're asking the voters to approve it again on this particular ballot. During this great recession of 2009, it created a backlog of public safety and infrastructure projects. However, with the help of the funding from the infrastructure sales tax, we are able to make really great progress and to support our community's needs. And in fact, since 2016, the penny sales tax has allowed us to allocate more than $134 million in road projects, more than $200 million in public safety projects. And just to give people a perspective, 1 mile of road cost $4 million.
Goodness, I didn't even know that. That's a lot of money to raise.
It's a lot of money. That's why this has been ever so helpful for us, because of the cost and the rate of growth that we're experiencing, not just in Florida, but in all of our Marion County community.
Right.
More than 200 people are moving into Marion County weekly. The penny sales tax has allowed us to begin projects where we would otherwise have to find funding from other sources.
Right. So I feel like Marion County is an amazing place to live in. I've lived in many, many places. This is, where my kids go to school. I work here. I shop here. And what makes a community great, what makes a community a great place to live in, it starts with number one, our first responders, I feel like, and making sure they have the tools and the training to stay up to par, right?
Absolutely. And the penny sales tax has provided for many public safety equipment and vehicles, as well as new and remodeled fire stations and a large capital project such as our upcoming new animal shelter that we're going to be breaking ground on here in just another couple weeks.
Very nice. Where's that at?
That's going to be on the intersection of Highway 40 and 60 at just about a quarter of a mile west of that intersection. And if you're headed west, it would be on the right hand side of the road.
Okay. Well, bringing that topic up, let's talk about infrastructure, because there are big concerns about infrastructure here in Marion County. And can you tell us a little bit more in detail, what we have done with our 1% penny and what we're going to be doing with the roads and those things for infrastructure?
First, I'll talk about, again, our rapid growing population. We know the county's infrastructure must be prepared to accommodate our new citizens and our visitors while continuing to meet the economic development goals of our county. We've identified over $900 million of capacity projects and $300 million of road rehabilitation projects over the next 20 years. And the penny sales tax has allowed us to allocate, again, more than $134 million in road projects since its inception. We've been working to relieve congestion over the last several years with funding from the penny sales tax. And some of those projects include the widening of Southwest 49th Corridor, which connects Marion Oaks all the way into the city of Ocala. And it also serves as a parallel to I-75. We have also been working on the 80th Avenue corridor, which is further to the west. This corridor also parallels I-75, helping with congestion by connecting the southern part of State Road 200 to our interchange north of Ocala. And we have a new interchange coming, which will parallel through the farmland areas and then come on into that new interchange. That interchange is expected to open in 2028. And at that same time, we're going to have a new local Buc-ee's coming at the same time.
Everybody's excited about that Buc-ee's.
Oh, yeah. And who has not experienced delays on I-75, shutdowns? But with the construction of both of those two corridors, we're going to be able to provide multiple alternative routes that's going to help the traffic continue to flow and move much more smoothly across our community.
Patience pays. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some money. This is why this 1% sales tax is so critical. I will say this, there's so much community involvement. There's a lot of excitement, and the business community is highly invested in passing this 1% sales tax. So can you tell us why that is the case, and what connection do we have with the sales tax in our local economy?
Well, local businesses need reliable infrastructure and equipped first responders, just like our individual citizens. Having adequate road infrastructure in place allows citizens to deliver goods and services in and out of our community, allowing them to be much more efficient. Additionally, the improved infrastructure allows our businesses to get more customers. One of the big selling points, I think, and I'm not trying to sell the sales tax. Let me just qualify that statement. But there are an estimated 30% of the sales tax that does and is paid by our visitors, our tourists, and individuals who use our roadways in Marion County, but they may not live or even own a business here. So taking some of that relief from the property owners, both individuals and businesses, because we know that we're going to need this infrastructure. Allowing those who are using the infrastructure to help pay for it, I think, is something that impresses the local businesses to think that this could be a good decision.
I call it the power of the penny. I think Kevin Sheely quoted that. And, because it's critical, because if we have tourists visiting, they're participating in paying for our roads with this 1% sales tax. And if we don't pass it, we got to get the funding from somewhere. So then our property taxes go up. So it's going to be more expensive for us. So this is more of a reason to really ensure, in my opinion, I'm not talking for Ms. Stone over here, to vote yes for the 1% sales tax. And I don't want my property taxes to go up. Do you want yours?
I pay a hefty amount of property taxes today. I'd like to not see them go up.
Yeah, you and everybody else listening. I think there's people out there that are unaware and or still concerned because they're thinking, okay, this is the election, depending on who's the president, taxes could go up also, or they could go down, or they could stay sideways. People are not sure what's actually going to happen after this election. And so to add a 1% or half penny sales tax to their payroll, basically, right? And the deductions for their own personal economies for their homes, they're not feeling good about it. From the first time I heard about it, I was like, oh gosh, another tax for me. But when I really learned about the value of it, and if I'm going to live here, I'm going to go shopping here, I'm going to raise my kids here, and I want to retire here, it plays a crucial role for the next 20 to 30 years here in Ocala. So what could you convey as a message to those people who are still unsure about this vote?
Well, first, I'd like to just verify for everyone again, this is not an additional tax. This is a continuation of a 1% sales tax that has been being collected since 2016. And the penny sales tax can only fund infrastructure projects such as roads, public safety equipment and vehicles, fire stations, large capital projects like our new animal shelter. This penny sales tax does not pay for daily county operations or maintenance or staff salaries. That comes from the county's general fund and other funding sources that we have. Additionally, all the expenditures from this revenue are strictly governed by the Florida statute 212.055. So if people want to do a little research, just Google Florida statute 212.055. And that gives a lot of detail about how those dollars can be used. The penny sales tax has allowed the county to allocate for our needs to fund a large number of road projects, equipment for our first responders, and capital projects. Without the penny sales surtax, the county would have to explore additional funding sources, including property taxes, to support the needs due to the unprecedented growth that we continue to experience.
Yes. So I'm going to say it. On the very bottom of your ballot, it's a hefty ballot. And at the very bottom, the last two questions, I'm going to vote yes. And I hope everybody partakes in that as well. Now, I know Miss Michelle Stone cannot tell us her opinion, but, we're all here as an amazing community to help grow our community together. And if you plan to be here for the next, 20 to 30 years, you're going to see great things at the same time. So again, vote yes for the 1% sales tax. And I'm also voting for the half penny sales tax.
Well, I can probably say as a person, individually, I have already voted. And I have voted yes.
Yes. Okay, good. There you guys have it. Well, Michelle, you are amazing. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your vision and what your thoughts are on this election and this ballot coming up here soon. And we hope to have you back here in about 3 to 4 months and just talk about what's the next plan, right?
I'll be happy to come back and share all of the plans that this penny is going to help provide for, because we do have a 20-year plan already in place for this infrastructure. We just hope we get the funding.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again. And for all of our listeners, stay tuned, because we're really going to be jumping into the election and the difference between the policies between Harris and Trump, staying right in the middle, but just giving you some great information if you're prepping for retirement and or in retirement and you're getting very nervous about this.
Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, of course, as always, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. If you've been listening over the last couple of weeks, you know that we've been spending some time talking about a local issue that you in Marion County will see on the ballot, and that is the 1% sales tax, the half penny sales tax, and that will be right there on your ballot. Of course, everybody's going there for other reasons as well, and that, of course, is to vote for president. So what we thought we would do today is take some time to look at simply the retirement issues. What are the presidential candidates talking about when it comes to the things that affect us on this show? And they would be taxes, Social Security, Medicare, the stock market, and the national debt, the things that we talk about that affect Charisse and you as you plan for your retirement. So we're not here to take a side. We're here basically to say, this is what this candidate says about Social Security. This is what this candidate says. How does that all play out? How does it affect you? So we're going to start here, Charisse, by talking about taxes. So the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was started in 2017. So you've been dealing with this for the last 6-7 years. It is set to sunset on January 1st of 2026. If Trump is elected, he says it will continue. If Harris is elected, it will likely come to an end. So let's just bite that part off right now and say, let's take that. As you've been helping people plan for retirement over the last 6 years, has the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act been a good thing? Has it not really mattered? Tell me the pros and cons that you have had with planning over the last 7 years.
Yeah. So for the average individual whom we work with, those pre-retirees and retirees, it is a different kind of planning. We have been lucky because the standard deduction for most people, or a lot of people out there, has been much higher than having to itemize taxes. So the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that, Congress, Republicans and Democrats came together in 2017 and they agreed, hey, for the next 10 years, we're going to raise your standard deduction, which gave more people a higher write-off on their income. And after 10 years, as long as it didn't cost them more than $1.5 trillion, and then after 10 years, it cost them nothing, then they will revert those taxes back to where we were in 2017, which is January 1st, 2026. We don't know where we're going to stand, but right now it is set to take those deductions, the $29,200. If you're married filing jointly, you get $29,200. That's going to get cut in half if everything stays the same. So if Donald Trump gets picked as the president, his goal is to keep that standard deduction, which has helped a lot of people. And a lot of our tax strategies that we've built into our plans, it's been a huge benefit because people are having to pay less taxes on the average. Now, if Harris comes in, of course, they're going to do other things and revert back, and it's going to cost us more in taxes. But there's other benefits that will come part of that as well. So for the tax changes, it's going to be a whole different kind of planning if Harris wins. And a lot of people, Randy, will go back to itemizing. And I know a lot of you were so happy when you didn't have to itemize your taxes and do that long form anymore. Because, for example, let's say you're writing off the interest on your home that you owned and you had a little side business. You write this off and this off. A lot of households were not writing off $29,200. So now what you're going to find yourself going back to is going back to probably something like that. So is it good? Is it bad? Is it indifferent? Anytime I think an individual pays more taxes, and if it does go back to where it was in 2017, Randy, the average individual is going to be paying $1,000, $2,000, maybe $4,000 more in taxes. That's money that can go back into the community, go back into prosperity and shopping and getting things back on Wall Street straight. So again, I'm a fan of not going back to the old ways and really moving forward, to be honest.
So let me ask you about the whole idea of itemizing. There's things that we talk about here on the show that I, in my mind, think that that's going to be a tax situation. You talk about end of the year tax loss harvesting. We also talk about doing charitable deductions. All of these things would be things that would show up on our taxes. If someone is not itemizing, are they eligible for some of the things that we talk about here on the show?
Those people who are not itemizing and you're taking that standard deduction, there's things called above the line deductions.
Okay.
So if you have an IRA or a 401k and you're 70.5, you can do this thing called a qualified charitable distribution. Instead of writing checks out of your checkbook and paying and donating to your churches and to your charities from accounts that you've already paid taxes on, if you're 70.5, it's quite the benefit what they have going on right now, because they allow you to gift through this qualified charitable distribution, if you're 70.5, those IRA dollars, so you don't have to pay taxes on those, and neither do the churches or the charities. So right now, that's a huge benefit. I don't know how much that's going to change here in 2026 still, to be honest, but it's been a glorious thing. Almost all of our clients use that resource, and they're saving a ton of money in taxes by doing that. The other thing is the donor advisor funds. There's really neat strategies there for donor advisor funds to get other write-offs, et cetera. Because I think the goal here, Randy, is when you're getting ready to retire, and even if you're in retirement, how do we get to a lower tax bracket in the future? Because we've been told, hey, when you retire, you're in a lower tax bracket. But really, 7 out of 10 people, they're in the same tax bracket or a higher tax bracket. So our job as a fiduciary and a retirement planner is, number one, it's just not your investments and your income plan. It is that tax strategy. And our tax software and our strategies today, we're going to have to make some changes in the future to tighten down those bolts even more if we do go back to the 2017 taxes.
Well, one of the things that we talk about regularly here on the show is to have a financial advisor in your life who's paying attention to taxes, to have a CPA, to have somebody on your side that you're working with in the tax area is extremely important, because Charisse, just in the last, 10 years, 11 years that you and I have been doing this show, there's been the Secure Act 1, there's been Secure Act 2. It used to be that you could stretch an IRA over your entire lifetime, that it was inherited to you. You could stretch that money out. Now they've changed the rules that you have to empty that account in 10 years. I've heard other people say they'll probably change that to 5 years. There are a lot of changes that are taking place within the tax realm that we have to keep track of, and you have to keep track of, because you're regularly meeting with your clients and say, hey, they changed the rules. We've got to change our plan.
Yeah. And we get a lot of people, Randy, that are coming in and saying, hey, if Harris wins, corporate taxes are going to go up to 28%. And if Trump wins, it's going to go down to 20%. And right now it's at 21%. And what people don't understand is that if corporate taxes do go up, we still pay for it in the long run. These companies will pass that burden to us as consumers, and all of our products will continue to shrink, or we'll pay more for them. So I call it the PPP, policy person position. Vote policy and what works for your personal economy. My personal economy says, hey, let's keep taxes the same so our clients can get more write-offs on average, and keep those corporate taxes down so that we don't get hurt in the back end anyways, and therefore earnings look better, companies are thriving, Wall Street and the stock market is growing.
You're listening to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. We're today taking a look at some of the election issues, the retirement issues that are related to the candidates and the elections. And as a candidate comes out there and says, hey, I want to do this, or I want to propose this, or here's a problem, here's how I'll solve it, any good journalist would say, okay, how are you going to pay for it? And if you talk to Trump, he'll say, we'll pay for it with tariffs. If you talk to Harris, she'll say, we're going to make people pay their fair share. We're going to tax people of higher income. Let's talk about that for just a few minutes here. And the Biden-Harris camp has always said, for those people who are making less than $400,000 a year, no change. For people who are making more, you will have to take on more of a tax burden. So talk to me about that a little bit, because I know that you have a very wide variety of people that come in, people that might come in with $5 or $10 million saved for retirement, other people that might come in with $500,000 saved for retirement. It'll affect people in different ways.
It really will. So the average American, it's not going to affect you that much. It really is not. But the people who really are driven to get income based on your investment portfolio, it's going to be a little bit of a pain point. And then on top of it, if your income is over $400,000, it's even worse. But I'll be honest with you, even right now, Randy, if your income and your married filing jointly is over $133,000, you don't get to use the normal tax bracket like everybody else. You get to use that awesome AMT tax where you're paying 26 to 28% on your dollars, right? So right now, people who do have higher incomes, it's not favorable anyways. But people who do hit over that 400,000, it looks like, it'd be a bigger dent. And some people say, hey, well, that's not fair. I've done well, blah, blah, blah. But I really think it's a matter of fact, Randy, because, the individual that only saved $500,000 or $1 million, they've done well too, right? And so I'm always a believer, believe it or not, that I'm okay paying a little bit more taxes because I do make a little bit more money. So why not pour it back into our community? I'm here to serve. But there is a number where I'm just like, okay, that's a little too much now. Like really, like then I wouldn't say it's not fair. I would just say is there a medium number here, right? And I feel like we're at that medium number right now. I can handle the AMT right now at 26 and 28. But if it were to go to 33 and 36, I might get a little upset personally, right? And along with other people, not crying the blues over here, but we all work hard and we all have our own lives and we live in our own silos. So saving every dollar is important, but also helping the entitlement programs stay alive, because we don't want retirees having to go back to work because they get cut. To me, is a huge part and a big part of the initiative for Republicans and Democrats. So, Social Security, Medicare, Randy, it's a big thing we got to worry about.
It is, and we are going to handle those topics coming up in our next segment. We'll talk through some corporate tax rates. We'll talk about capital gains. We'll talk about Social Security, Medicare, and more. Talking about the issues that are kind of on the ballot when it comes to your candidate and how they feel about the retirement-related issues. Taxes, Social Security, Medicare, all these different things that we talk about here on the show. How does it affect your planning for retirement? We'll continue with our discussion coming up in our next segment. You're listening to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, it's zinniawealth.com or 833-368-3680. Now, we're talking through some of the issues that are really on the ballot, because as you go to vote, the candidates are talking about these issues that we talk about here on the show. Retirement issues, Social Security, Medicare, taxes, national debt, all these different things that we talk about regularly that Charisse has to plan around. So let's talk through them. You mentioned it already a little bit on the corporate taxes. Currently, the corporate tax level is 21% for corporations. Harris wants to raise that to 28%. Trump wants to lower that to 20%. Let's talk about just that right now, because you are a business owner.
Yeah, so I'll start with Harris. Democrats typically advocate for a higher corporate tax, and Harris would likely support raising the corporate tax rate from the current level to potentially 28%, right, from where it stands today. The argument is that increased corporate taxes could provide more government revenue to fund Social Security, Medicare, and other programs for retirees, right, and just people in general. But high corporate taxes might also reduce corporate profits, right? We talked about that earlier, which could impact stock prices. And retirees who are invested in the stock market in their 401ks and their IRAs and your pensions, you'll probably see a slower growth of your portfolios as companies face higher tax burdens. And on top of that, they're going to pass the risk off to you anyways, because costs of goods are going to go up. So let's talk, and that leads to, potential inflation, right? And we've already had shrink inflation. If you've seen the recent Snicker bar, it's like half the size. I have to buy two for the same price to get my original one, right? And it's a positive, and there's also negatives. Every campaign, it doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican, there's always a pro and con to each one. And we just got to pick what we personally feel is best for us. And this is what I love about voting. We get the choice. As long as you do your homework and you understand how it's going to affect you and you really dig in, I think that helps people really figure out, okay, is it person or policy I want to vote for? And right now, it's all about policy and how can it help us get out of debt? How can it leave more money in the consumer's pockets? How does it keep moving the stock market up without, hyperinflation? So there's a lot of concern there. So that's the Harris's take, right? Trump would likely continue advocating for lower corporate taxes and maintaining the current status, right? And what that does is it brings higher earnings to the companies. It makes Wall Street happier. And if you have investment portfolios and you live on those investments, it just helps all together with capital gains. It helps all together with the markets moving forward and the growth of your portfolio. And it's going to affect everybody, right? Whether they raise corporate taxes or they don't raise corporate taxes and lower them, because somehow, some way, somewhere else in the program, in this campaign, things have to be paid for, right? But there's other things that we can shift to and make changes to. You know what I like, Randy? I like to stay in the middle, because Yeah, maybe corporate taxes could go up 1% or 2, and Harris wants to do that, but she wants it to go to 28, which I think is a little too steep. And this is my opinion, by the way. And then Trump says, no, I want to take from 21% and bring it down to 20. And I'm just like, I don't even know if that's necessary, but I'm happy with a 22% or 23%, somewhere that would make all people happy. And it's not going one way too far or the other way. And we're still all helping each other. Like, where is that person in all this? Like, do I need to run for election, Randy? I mean, I like to make common sense of it. If I was running, I'd be like, well, they say this and our party always says this, I'm going to go right in the middle. I might not get elected, right? I'm too fair.
Let's talk about this whole how we're going to pay for it thing. Trump has said he wants to eliminate the taxes on Social Security for seniors. He wants to eliminate taxes on tips, eliminate taxes on overtime, eliminate taxes on if you buy a car, the interest that you would be able to be deductible, that kind of thing. So then you have to say, where is this all going to come from? You're saying lower taxes, lower taxes, lower taxes, but where is the extra money going to come from? He will always say tariffs. So what is your thought on tariffs? He wants to do stiffer tariffs on Chinese imports. I have heard a lot of things that say tariffs don't work. Tariffs will cause inflation. Tariffs will hurt our economy. Your thought?
Okay, so I have a few views of tariffs. So let me kind of give you some positive notes on tariffs. So the one thing I do like about tariffs is that it protects jobs, domestic jobs, right? And it also brings new players to the table. Like, instead of bringing these imports in, maybe a company here locally will just start making those products. So it brings prosperity, and it protects our jobs instead of bringing those imports in. Basically, for them to bring their stuff in that they're making in Taiwan or wherever they're making it, it's going to cost them some points to do business with America, which we have right now, but they want to raise tariffs. So it hasn't historically proven to be the best tactic, right? So Trump, this is what he wants to do. And there's a lot of math involved. I don't think Trump got to do it the way he wanted to do it. But tariffs can also hurt because these other countries are going to say, well, fine, we're going to do the same thing to you. So now we got this, cat and mouse chasing the tail of the donkey, right? And so what good does it do us if that's the case? So I am pro tariffs, but I'm also cautious about the double-edged sword when it comes to these tariffs for sure. Now, how can they really hurt us? Well, higher consumer prices, right?
Which is inflation, which is what we've been fighting.
Right. So I'm certain inflation will go up. So we're trying to keep it down, right? We got it down. And then there's also the disruption of the stock market. It will absolutely disrupt the stock market because tariffs can protect certain industries, but not all industries, right? And the global supply chain for exported goods could be hurting, right? And you guys heard about the shutdown of all the ports, and we immediately fixed it because we know how detrimental that could be. So we don't want supply chain shut down. So there's a high price here when you're making these decisions. There's retaliation by other countries like we just spoke about. And there's a global economic slowdown, Randy, and that's widespread. When that happens, it comes into the United States also. So I'm not picking one side or the other when it comes to tariffs, but I would have to see a well-oiled plan for me to be like, yeah, tariffs, Trump, yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good idea. I just think it needs to be done right, and it needs to have a method to it. And, you have to have some respect in all this, right?
You're listening to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Today, looking at some of the retirement issues that will be on the ballot as you go out and vote in just a matter of days. One of the other issues about taxes is the capital gains tax. Currently, the top rate is 20%. Former President Trump proposes that the capital gains tax will be of 15%. Harris proposes a 28% capital gains cap and an additional 5% for people who make over $1 million. So capital gains, when Warren Buffett talks about this, he says, look, I pay 15%. My secretary pays much more. I'm a billionaire. She's not. Why is that fair? he brings up a very good point that people of great wealth receive their income in a different way, and that way is taxed lower. Harris says, let's make it fair. Pay your fair share. Move that number up. She thinks you should move it up to 28%. Talk to me about capital gains.
I do worry about this capital gains rate changing. I'll be honest. I actually like it where it's at. So even though we like it where it's at, doesn't mean it should stay there, because we have trillions of dollars in debt. Somebody's got to pay the piper, and it's obviously going to be us, or the government slows down spending, which we all know that's a joke. That's not going to happen. So the only other way to really do it is raise revenue. So this is one of the pieces. So the top capital gains rate currently is 20%. And former President Trump proposed capital gains taxes of 15%. And Harris proposes 28%. The one thing that Harris has brought to the table is that 28%, it's high, right? But the one thing I don't like is the additional 5% for people earning over $1 million. I'm not a fan of that. And the one thing I'm good with what Trump is proposing, 15% is a good number. You know, long-term capital gains right now are 20 and as the max, but a lot of people are at 15%. So I don't know. I just think that raising that capital gains tax too fast is going to leave a bad message to the Americans that, hey, we've saved, we've been working hard, and now you're going to nearly double our capital gains. I think people are going to be very angry about that. Me personally, yes, I'm going to be angry. And again, why not like a happy medium, Randy? Right now, the highest capital gains that you pay is 20%. And if Harris wants to raise it to 28%, why don't we do 25, nix at 28, and get rid of the additional 5%? Like, is it really going to move the needle at the end of the day? And I think every little piece helps, but I'm still in point in question when it comes to that. So again, I like to stay in the middle. I think lowering the capital gains, the highest capital gains rate, I'm not sure that's the best idea either, Trump. To be honest, yes, I love it. That's a great deal for me and a lot of people. But if we're trying to keep more money in for the revenue and to lower our debt and to prosper, you know, there's got to be that in between. So I really like how things are right now, believe it or not.
All right. You're listening to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers, talking through some of the retirement issues that will be on the ballot as you vote for president. Let's move our way into Social Security. President Trump says, he's always said, I want to protect Medicare and protect Social Security. Yet there's only very, very few lines about that within his platform. It would be very good for retirees, as he says, he wants to eliminate the taxes on Social Security for seniors. Yet, we need to know this, that there's about $1.35 trillion that comes in to Social Security every year. That's from our paychecks. The taxation on Social Security brings in about $51 billion. So therefore, if he takes that out, that's money that goes into that trust fund. And that trust fund is going to run out in 2033. If he eliminates the taxes on Social Security, it could empty that trust fund quicker. That could be a real downside here.
I know. Like, listeners, you guys are all listening. It's like, do we or don't we, right?
Yeah. Because
I have said for years, I wish the retirees didn't have to pay up to 85% on their Social Security and taxes, right? Some people are at 50%, some people are at 0%, but it's a hefty tax. And I always wish it went away. Or I wish they would give a retiree credit. Now, pay the tax, keep the rules the same, but based on age and, you know, if somebody's passed away or not, and now you're living on a single income and retirement, you know, give a credit. I mean, that to me is a no-brainer. You know, I came up with that the other day and I went, a credit would be amazing. That would just help soften the blow when income goes down, because you lose a Social Security check when somebody's passed away, maybe even part of a pension. So I really don't think the answer is getting rid of this Social Security tax. Okay. I do love the idea of lowering it and changing the rules within, so that, because we do need that revenue, but I would like to take some of those pain points off the retirees, just depending how they're invested. And, you know, I could come up with probably a really good plan here. So I think just taking the tax away completely from Social Security could hurt us, because the goal is that if you're retiring or you're in retirement now, if we do that, that will be a crippling effect to the Social Security Trust Fund being solvent here in 2033 and to be able to still give you your checks.
All right. Now, Harris's thoughts on Social Security are she wants to continue to support Social Security and Medicare the way they are, but move taxes up to continue to fund those programs. And who pays those taxes? Again, the people who are making more than $400,000 a year. People under that threshold would not see any kind of increase.
Right. So for the average retiree, this doesn't hurt them, because they're not making over $400,000 a year when they're retired. And over $250,000 a year is not likely, right? So for the retiree, I don't think this is a big deal. People who are saving money in their 401ks and making money, that's going to be a pain point for us people who are making those types of income streams, right? Your attorneys, the professors, business owners, you name it. Yeah, it's going to hurt. But if I had to choose between the two evils, I would say let's protect Social Security. Let's protect the retiree who is not going back to get a job, who does not deserve to go back and get a job, who health-wise might not be able to go back to get a job, and then to work at age 65. I mean, come on, that's not justified, and that's not the American way. So if we keep the tax reform where it is on Social Security today, and we keep it the same, doesn't go down, it doesn't go up, then yes, then I have to side a little bit on Harris's side. I hate to say it out loud here, but I'm going to, because I am personally willing to pay a little bit more in taxes to make sure Social Security survives. And because my clients and my family are counting on that one stool of income, and if it goes away, or if it goes down, if your Social Security checks go down 20%, you have to have an average of $1 million to $2 million saved somewhere else to get those dollars back into your monthly, billfold. And so I trying to stay in the middle. I'm not going to stay in the middle here. I'm okay with people who have incomes over $400,000 to pay a little bit more. Not a whole lot more, but definitely a little bit more.
You're listening to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, find us, zinniawealth.com. As you're listening to this, and if you pop in on the middle of it, you say, okay, I'm kind of interested in what the take is here. Go to our podcast. You'll hear all of this, where we started out talking about taxes and paying your fair share and all the different ideas that the candidates have and how that affects you and your retirement planning. Find your podcast on iTunes, on Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Just look us up at Retirement Coffee Talk. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we have yet to tackle Medicare and the national debt. Where do the candidates fall on that? How does it affect you and your retirement? That's coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, it's zinniawealth.com or 833-368-3680. If you just joined us, we're doing a show today, kind of a special show, getting you ready for Election Day and talking about the retirement issues, the tax issues, the financial issues, the issues about Social Security, Medicare, all the different things that we talk about here. How would they be affected whether Trump goes into office or Harris goes into office? And now we're on Medicare. So Harris has proposed Medicare for all, calling for a 10-year phase-in period that will allow, this is interesting, private insurers to compete with government-led systems. That's been something that's been said for many years about Social Security, but not necessarily about Medicare, involving private insurers to get involved more. Good idea? Not a good idea? Better, more choices seems to be better? What's your take there?
You know what? I think it's an opportunity for the healthcare world and division and Medicare to prosper and grow and let the best gladiator win. Because right now, I feel like it's a sham. Right now, you get on Medicare and you can go buy a Medicare supplement and pay a premium every month, go wherever you want, as long as it's medically necessary. And or you can get a Medicare Advantage plan. And the dollars that these plans and these doctors get paid is ridiculous. Yeah. It's an absolute waste of money. So I am all for Harris's idea on this because think about it. Right now, somebody who's 65 and older, if you have an HMO or PPO with these Advantage plans, that doctor gets an average of $1,000 a month to do what? to see you once a year to tell you, hey, go take some diabetes pills and high blood sugar pills, or hey, you're doing good. What a ripoff. Oh my gosh, those dollars, Randy, we could really do some stuff with, right? Absolutely. Which I think Harris honestly has some ideas here. And I would say I'm all for privatizing this and let the best person win. Yep. And then let's save those dollars and see if we can give more benefit back to these retirees. The one thing we should be really focused on is these retirees who are on fixed income, who have raised revenue all these years by working and doing what they're told, paying into the FICA taxes, and just honor them, honor thy mom, dad, grandma, grandpa by giving them a better benefit. And I will say Medicare is fantastic already. I just love Medicare and talking about the red, white, and blue card, and because you will lower costs altogether once you do turn 65. But I just think this is a great idea.
Well, one of the things that you and I talk about when we talk about one of the biggest fears of retirees is long-term care. How am I going to pay for that if I have to go into a facility? I don't want to burden my kids with that. On and on and on. And one of the things that we always say, one of the sentences is, Medicare doesn't cover long-term care. Well, Harris has proposed that Medicare would have some coverage for in-home care for the elderly. That would be a real positive for a lot of people, because in-home care is where a lot of people want to start until they have to go into a facility. And that's very expensive too.
It is. Medicare does not pay for, your home health care or your long-term care after so many days, right? And it's very minimal. And to say, hey, Medicare now might cover your home health care, I think that's a good deal. Like if they stop using these Advantage plans like they are, and they take that $1,000 a month that they're giving to these doctors' offices and put it back into things people really need, like home health care, and the average stay in your own home before you even go to a nursing home, if you ever make it there, they say is an average, 3 to 5 years? And to have some of that paid for a retiree, especially with taxes going up and a lot of things that are going to burden the average retiree, I like the idea. I would like to see the method behind it to make sure it's not a sham and the dollars are appropriated to the right place, right? So I still have to, dig in a little deeper there. But when you look at Trump, he's saying, hey, the proposal is to spend $1.5 trillion less on Medicaid, $25 billion less on Social Security, and $845 billion less on Medicare. So he hasn't really come out.
No, he hasn't.
And really said specifically, but I'm going to tell you something. He is an advocate for the veterans. He is an advocate for retirees. So I'm not sure why he hasn't really put, a pinpoint onto exactly what's going to happen here. But the fact he's saying that he wants to spend less hurts people's feelings, right? And when I first heard that, I'm like, I don't know if we can spend less, Trump. But if he has similar ideas to Harris to say, hey, maybe we will privatize some of this health insurance so that we're not giving as much back to doctors. And I know doctors right now are not happy with this conversation, that I'm even saying this, because they do make good money off those things and they deserve it, right? But I think it's a little steep, in my opinion, when we could take those dollars and we could lower spending, like Trump was saying, on Medicaid, lower the spending on Social Security, lower the spending on Medicare, because we're now just looking at this vision plan the next 10 years, and we're saying, let's take these dollars that really aren't doing justice for the retiree, and let's put those dollars that were going into that doctor's pocket, and let's put it back into Medicare and home health care and give it back to the retiree, because they deserve it. And so until I know, I don't know what the plan is for Trump, unfortunately.
So as we kind of close these things out, we're not going to really have time to dive into the national debt, because I think that's a segment all by itself.
Okay.
Because of, how much is all this going to cost under Harris, under Trump, and all these different things as well. So we will get into that. But, what I would like to close with today is we talked a little bit about Warren Buffett there. And Warren Buffett said, I've lived and invested under 14 presidents, 7 Democrats and 7 Republicans. And if I allowed my politics to influence my investment decisions, I would have missed out on a lot of the party.
I know.
So we have discussed this. We have about a minute left here, Charisse. We have discussed this a lot. Don't let politics affect your investment decisions, but certainly vote. Go out there. That's why we did this show today, is to say there are issues. Some are going to be more important than others, but please do vote.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Randy, I've heard a lot of people, business owners and non-business owners, saying, I just don't even want to vote. And that's crushing to my heart. I'm going to be honest with you, because This is the time that we have to vote. I don't care what you think. I don't care if you think there's going to be cheating. I don't care if you think this or that. I don't care. It's still, every vote still counts. That is the American way. I truly still believe in that. So here's my final thoughts, because I know we got to shorten this up. Stay focused on your long-term plans. Political changes are temporary, and your retirement plan should be built around weathering the market when it goes up and down, period. Those are my final thoughts. And again, I don't take one side versus the other side. I try to stay in the middle when it comes to elections, because remember, policy is important and you get to choose. It's your choice. It's your one time to stand up and be like, you know what? I'm going this direction. But just understand, policy is the only thing we always ask, and go out and vote. If your vote is all about protecting your moms and your dads and your grandmas and grandpas, that's a great reason to vote, because this could really put a dent in their financial future. So at least if you're not going to do it for you, do it for them, because I know you want to. Thank you all for tuning in. If you missed any of this show, you can go to our podcast, Retirement Coffee Talk. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on your Apple phones as a special podcast. We're on iTunes. You can do a rewind and see what we said there. As usual, thank you so much for tuning in. Live by design and not by default, and we'll see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at zinniawealth.com.
Charisse Rivers is an investment advisor representative of Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Charisse Rivers is licensed in your state, please contact their office. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Any client experiences discussed during this show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Charisse Rivers, NPN Insurance License Number 8718011.